tell us if those things are overreactions. Here we go. If people were saying Lamar Jackson has played his last game in Baltimore, would that be an overreaction?
No, we've been talking about it. Like this is a bad ending to a season for which he and they had very high hopes. The contract is still not done. It's still a point of contention. There's absolutely a scenario where this offseason, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens part ways. I don't know which way it'll head, but you cannot possibly take that off the table as an outcome here.
Yeah, we had a lengthy discussion about this earlier. This feels like the beginning of a divorce. Meanwhile, speaking of that, Sean McVay, if someone were to say he's coming back and coaching the Rams again next year, would that be an overreaction?
I think it is. I mean, look, he's definitely indicated that he's at least wrestling with this decision. He's told his coaching staff that they can go out and look for other jobs if they want because he's not sure what he's going to do. I personally think we'll have an answer on this sooner rather than later, possibly by the end of this week, but it is entirely possible that Sean McVay decides to step away from coaching. He's only 36.
Yeah.
If he does, I imagine he'll be back at some point.
There are very few easier tea leaves to read than when the coach tells his assistants, yeah, you might want to go look for other jobs. He's sending a signal, right?
That's definitely an indication of something.
One more. If I were to say, if Aaron Rodgers comes back next year, the Packers are going to win that division. Is that an overreaction?
No, it's not an overreaction. I mean, look, they played well at the end of the year. As long as he's not on a significant decline, I think he comes back another year with the young receivers, another offseason of seasoning for them, and I think there's some good young players on the defense. I think, Detroit looks like it's coming. Minnesota just won a whole bunch of games. There'll be a lot of teams you can pick, but I think the Packers would deserve to be among the favorites for that division.
Okay.
If he comes back. If he comes back.
That's the way you see it. Our buddy Chris Canty sees it very differently. He was suggesting yesterday it's best for everyone if the Packers and Aaron Rodgers go their separate ways next year. Here he was yesterday on Get Up.
They're a lot closer to a rebuild than a championship. And I'm sorry, I'm not paying a quarterback $60 million in 2023 if we're not going to be in championship contention. And it just seems like this is the time to transition away from Aaron Rodgers because even with him, you're not competing at a high level.
So that's a really interesting thought. It's one thing to say that Rodgers' play has fallen off a bit, which this season there's no question that it did. Now, whether that is a sign of decline or just a bad year, that remains to be seen. But he's making the point that this team is not going to contend for the championship, sort of the opposite of the overreaction there. And if so, why are you paying a 39-year-old quarterback $60 million to do it? Is he right? Are the Packers on the decline, Bart Scott?
I don't know. I think you can sometimes, instead of having a rebuild, sometimes teams call it a reload. I think I was encouraged how this team finished this season. If they can start off with Aaron Rodgers, you're going to always be in an opportunity to get in the postseason, especially because now 7 teams go from each conference. No, but the Packers are going to have to do something that they rarely do. They're going to have to push all their chips to the middle, maybe even mortgage a bit of the future to go in and really stack the deck for Aaron Rodgers. And I know that's something that they're not accustomed to doing, but that's what the conversation is all about. Will you go out and spend money? Will you not be outbid, for Chase Claypool? Will you spend future assets? Because, the future of a rebuild has the face of Jordan Love on it, and you're not going to be, a relevant football team for a long time as you're chasing the Lions and the Dolphins and the Vikings within that whole division.
And who knows how much better the Bears are going to get quickly. I hear what you're saying. The problem is, and I could see Graziano out of the corner of my eye, how many times have we said, well, this is the year they have to do it, and they never do. It's just not the way they do business. So whether you think they should or I think they should is irrelevant. It's not what they do. I know that, Nico, you have a different view of this. Why do you think it's a little simpler than we're making it?
It's $60 million or $50 million.
It's $60 million.
Nobody's going to walk away from $60 million.
Right.
Now, if they had an opportunity to not give him $60 million, sure, but it's guaranteed. He signed a contract that was guaranteed. So I don't care how much money you got in the bank. You can't tell me that because he made a lot of money that he's going to pass on the ability to go and make $60 million, $30 million after that, whatever. It's a lot of money. He's going to be the quarterback in Green Bay next year. And I do think on the positive side of things, you saw a young group of receivers come around a little bit at the end of the season. Now, if they make a jump from year 1 to year 2, more confidence, playing with Aaron Rodgers, I believe that they could be a better football team and make a run next year with a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Run through the different things that could happen here. So Rodgers, the contract is what it is. Unless he retires, they're on the hook for every penny of that, and that's not that conversation ends there, right?
Correct. Yeah, and then look, you can do things with the cap. The cap hit's not going to be $60 million, but if they were to cut him before June 1st, then the cap hit would be almost $100 million. If they were to trade, so if they wanted to trade, let's say he comes to them and says, I want out, I want to play somewhere else. They could trade him, but again, if you trade him, that cap hits about $98 million, unless you wait until after June 1st. So that creates a really interesting situation where would teams put their quarterback plans on hold, thinking they could get Aaron Rodgers after June 1st. So I just think it's too complicated. I think when the contract was done last March, that it locked him in for 2 years. I think the Packers made that decision then. I think he made that decision then. And while he can say what he wants about stepping away and I could walk away from that money, I think Ninko's absolutely right. I think that ship has sailed.
So if that's the case, they gave him a level of control over the organization.
Right.
They locked him in. So why wouldn't, if he says, I want Gabe Davis, why wouldn't they go out and get Gabe Davis? If he says that, hey, I want this free agent, he's going to be involved, or he should be involved in the conversation, or you shouldn't have gave him the power or the money.
Yeah. They put themselves in a position where they had no choice. I mean, at the end of the day, we saw where this thing went and all of that. And with Jordan Love, we have no idea if or when we will ever see him in a meaningful way on the field for the Packers. In the meantime, the normal big man may not be here, but the helmets are, and the smashing begins now. Welcome to the most dangerous segment. Big man, tiny helmet. Who's getting smashed? Tom Brady's not going to like that.
At quarterback, Niners come in having won 10 games in a row. They're red hot. They're just by far the better team. But I do think it's a mismatch of their offense against Seattle's inconsistent defense.
That's fair. Ninko, let's go to the Chargers and Jaguars. If the Chargers win, why will they have won?
Turnover differential. So this is going to come down to turnovers. You look at Jacksonville, they won last week based on a strip sack, scoop and score. So you're playing against a mobile quarterback. Justin Herbert can run. He's very athletic. He's a big guy, and he's smart in the pocket. He's going to know where the blitz is coming. He's going to get the ball out of his hand, protect that turnover differential, win the game.
Bart, a lot of people like the Giants to win at Minnesota. If they do, what will be the difference? Why will they win?
Coaching. I mean, I love me some Kevin O'Connell. He was a teammate of mine. I know he has Mike Pettin on the staff, Ed Donatel, and Wes Phillips. But for me, Dayball has proven that he can make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what, right? He's a guy that's gotten the best out of Daniel Jones. This game went all the way down to the wire, took a 60-yard field goal. And I think that, you look on the other side, Wink Martindale is in his bag, and that defense is healthy now. Everybody practiced. You heard Dayball say that. And I think they're going to be able to come in. They're going to play pressure-free. When
I said everyone likes them in this game, I wasn't kidding. Cindy, put the picks on the screen. Once again, I had to go Oppo because everyone here likes the Giants, who are a 3-point road underdog. By the way, we talk about what's at stake for the Cowboys. Yeah. What is at stake for the quarterback of the Giants in this game? Has there been a decision in the building made on whether or not Daniel Jones is their quarterback going forward?
I think he's shown them what they needed to see. The question, of course, becomes the numbers, right? What is he looking for in terms of a contract? What are they willing to pay Daniel Jones versus try and find another solution if it costs too much? So, but I do think that he showed them what they needed to see from him this year. I don't think this game determines anything. It might help his case.
A little more
contract negotiations.
A little bit more cheese on it.
But I don't think it changes their opinion of him one way or the other.
Well, when you look at how desperate for quarterbacks a lot of teams are going to be during the offseason, I could see Daniel Jones being sort of a popular guy in that. He's had a very good year, and then Saquon speaks for himself. I mean, however much you're willing to spend on a running back, he deserves.
Unfortunately for Saquon, the franchise tag for running backs is pretty affordable.
It's just the reality of it for him.
Daniel Jones looking at his comp right across the other sideline. I think you would put him and Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins, you mean, kind of in the same light. I mean, you talk about skill set. I think Daniel Jones is a better athlete. But that's about the marketing. Who's made more money in the recent years than Kirk Cousins? So I think you don't let Daniel Jones get to the market. I think he's comfortable. I think he's happy that they've spent the draft pick on him. He's validated, in my opinion. They can win games with Daniel Jones as their quarterback in the future. You can do a lot worse than Daniel Jones. Yeah.
So once again,
talk about chicken salad.
In the NFC, this table tends to like Tampa on Monday night, and this table likes the Giants on Sunday afternoon. We hope you will like watching hockey tonight. Our ESPN hockey matchup features Austin Matthew. Tell us if those things are overreactions. Here we go. If people were saying Lamar Jackson has played his last game in Baltimore, would that be an overreaction?
No, we've been talking about it. Like this is a bad ending to a season for which he and they had very high hopes. The contract is still not done. It's still a point of contention. There's absolutely a scenario where this offseason, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens part ways. I don't know which way it'll head, but you cannot possibly take that off the table as an outcome here.
Yeah, we had a lengthy discussion about this earlier. This feels like the beginning of a divorce. Meanwhile, speaking of that, Sean McVay, if someone were to say he's coming back and coaching the Rams again next year, would that be an overreaction?
I think it is. I mean, look, he's definitely indicated that he's at least wrestling with this decision. He's told his coaching staff that they can go out and look for other jobs if they want because he's not sure what he's going to do. I personally think we'll have an answer on this sooner rather than later, possibly by the end of this week, but it is entirely possible that Sean McVay decides to step away from coaching. He's only 36.
Yeah.
If he does, I imagine he'll be back at some point.
There are very few easier tea leaves to read than when the coach tells his assistants, yeah, you might want to go look for other jobs. He's sending a signal, right?
That's definitely an indication of something.
One more. If I were to say, if Aaron Rodgers